Welcome to the DocuBrain Workflow Editor tutorial. In this video, I'll walk you through the steps of downloading the Workflow Editor installer. We'll go through the installation process, and then I'll get you familiar with the user interface. The first step will be to open a web browser and go to DocuBrain.com. You'll also want to click over here in the right-hand corner and click Login and log in with your DocuBrain account. After you're logged in, click under Products, Workflow Editor Downloads Release 8, and then you'll see the link here in this area for the Workflow Editor setup. This is, of course, the beta version. If you want to go ahead and click that and download the installer. After the download completes, you want to go ahead and start the installer. Go ahead and step through it. And once the installer completes, you'll get the desktop icon and go ahead and launch the editor. Okay, so here's the DocuBrain Workflow Editor. We'll go ahead and start explaining the interface a little bit. Up top, you've got the top menu bar with your file edit menus to open and close deployments, etc. You'll have your two windows over here, one with your all of the BPMN elements and the other you'll use to connect to TechDoc Workflow Repository. Let's go ahead and do a create new deployment here. What you'll end up with is a empty diagram. Every new deployment always gets a single process. One of the first things you'll want to do in here is just take and right click on the diagram, go under process properties, and give your process a name. You always have to have a unique process ID and a process name. So let's just go ahead and well, we're going to do a timer, just demo the BPMN timer event here in a minute. So let's just go ahead and do a timer test. And let's go ahead and for the just do the same here for the name. You'll notice when I interacted with the diagram, I right-clicked to expose the diagram properties, the process properties, etc. The same goes for a BPMN event, an element rather. After you drag an element onto the screen, you can right-click the element and you see all the various things you can do to the element. Right-click on the properties there. You can go under and see the different properties here for this start event. It's important to note that while this element here is selected, you'll see I have an element menu here. Everything that's available in the right-click menu on the element is also available up here when that element is selected. So I can click there and you can see I've got the same menu here. It's also the same for the diagram. When you click that menu, you'll see that it matches exactly what you see here. So you saw a second ago I dragged a start event out onto the diagram. We'll go ahead and drag the other two elements out we're going to need. We're just going to do a real basic, just an example of a timer, nothing fancy. So I drug all three of them onto the diagram. You just click an element and hold the left mouse button and drag it right onto the diagram. Let's see, let's go ahead and delete that. Just right click, delete, we don't need that. So I drug all three elements onto the diagram. You'll notice I just connected those lines also. If you hover in the center of an element, you'll see the little square indicator pop up. That's there showing that you can make a connection. So I'm connected from one to the other to make my connections. So I've got all the elements connected now. So we just have an empty catch event at the moment. We need to turn this into a timer event. Okay, so what we need to do is we need to right click on the catch event there. We'll go to the event definitions. On this window, what we're going to want to do is do an element defined event, meaning this is an event we're going to define on the element. You can define events at the process level and share them, but we're just going to define this on the element in this case. So let's click timer. We'll just do duration, and we'll do it for a period time of just, I don't know, 1 minute. Click OK and click OK. And now you'll see that the little catch event here has the picture of a clock on it. So we now have a complete workflow process. It's going to start up here. It'll execute this event here in the middle for approximately a minute, and then the process will end. So, okay, so we drew the process out. If you look here on the diagram, you'll see there's a design tab and a source tab. Right now we're in design mode. Let's go ahead and click on the source tab, and you'll see a whole bunch of XML. Hopefully you're familiar with this. You'll see here the standard definitions block here. You'll see where we build out the process here. You'll see our start, intermediate, end events, the sequence flow. So basically everything you draw over here, the editor is generating all of this on the fly for you. So anytime you come back to design mode, let's drag a receive task over here. We'll delete it in a minute. Click back to source. If we look now, you see the receive task and then our other 3 events. So every time you make a change in design mode, you'll see that happen over in the source window. It's nice to be able to look over here and you can dig in, see what's going on. You'll notice when we a minute ago when we named our process, you can see the process ID and name here. So basically we've got a finished workflow process. So let's go ahead and save this deployment. Let's talk about deployments for a second, because this varies a little bit from editor to editor. With workflow, there's the concept of deployment, and a deployment can have one or more processes and then additional files as well, just kind of like a little package. It's actually a zip file, a bar file, but it's really a zip file for us that our workflow engine activity uses. So you can see here we've just got one process. We could actually come over here and add another diagram, another process. So now we could have 2 diagrams here in this deployment. Let's go ahead and remove that diagram. We're just going to stick with the one. Let's go ahead and save out this deployment, and we'll just go ahead and just save it here locally. And now we've saved it, and you'll see the name up here says videotimer.bar. Activity uses what they call a business archive. It's basically just a zip file that's been renamed. You can actually rename it to .zip and then use 7-zip or WinZip, any of those zip programs to decompress it, and then you'll see that it just contains the diagram and a thumbnail of the diagram. So we've saved out this deployment. The next thing that we're going to want to do is get it up to the document manager. So in order to connect to TechDoc, you will need to be targeting a TechDoc 8 machine. And that machine must also be running one of the newest version of TechDoc 8. Should have been installed with a TechDoc installer dated 5/21/20 2014 or newer. So the next thing we're going to want to do is upload this deployment to the workflow engine. I'm going to upload this to the workflow engine on my TechDoc document manager that I have running here locally. So to do that, I'm going to click the repository tab. First we've got to set up the connection, so go ahead and click the little wrench there to manage connections and then click new. I'm going to punch in the host name where my document manager is running. I'm going to go ahead and connect with single sign-on. You may or may not be using single sign-on in your environment. Completely depends. I'll go ahead and demo the single sign-in portion for you folks that are using that. If you log into TechDoc with a regular username and password, just leave the box unchecked, enter that here, and click the OK button. But we're going to log on with single sign-on, so go ahead and check that box and click OK. Give it just a second here, and you'll see a web browser pop up. In our environment, we use Shibboleth for our identity provider. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. This will differ for everyone. It completely depends on how it's set up in your environment. A lot of our users use single sign-on, and they're actually in an environment where when they're on their workstation logged in, they're single signed on. So they're actually, when you click the checkbox and you click OK, you'll probably just see a web browser pop up, close back down, and then you'll just log right in because you're already signed in. There's nothing else you need to do. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and log in. Let's give this a second, and then usually takes a few seconds. Okay, and you'll see we get back to the Manage Connections window. So that means it was successful. Now over here in the Connections drop down, you'll see the connection we just created. You want to click the Connect button. And then you'll see that the single sign-on window pops up again because that's what we're using. Anytime you click the settings and you change a connection, we always validate the connection just to make sure that you can get to it, your credentials are correct, etc. We don't save the information from that connection session. We just use it for validation purposes. So the next time when you go to connect, you'll need to enter it again. But after this point, we will continue to keep that session alive for you, so you're not going to have to keep logging in anymore. And like I said, some of you may not even see that screen at all. So the login has come back. You can see here I'm connected here to my machine. You see my deployments listed here. I've got a few other things from testing on here. So, oh yeah, you notice here I just tried to delete this one. It says I can't delete it because it's got a process running on the workflow engine. That's true. We'll go ahead and just leave that one for now. Let's go ahead and blast these two away. Just click them. You can select one or more deployments here and click the delete button. So we've created our example here. We're connected to the workflow engine, so let's go ahead and click the deploy button here. You'll get a window asking if you're sure you want to deploy it to this engine. Let's say yes. You'll want to give this deployment a name. This will be the name that it actually uses on the document manager when you view this under the workflow section. We'll just go ahead and stick with the video timer. That works just fine. Click the OK button. You'll see it just got uploaded to the workflow repository. Now over here in the list, you'll see we have a video timer deployment, and then down here you can actually see a thumbnail of that deployment up on the workflow engine. So we've gone through all of that. Now let's go ahead and take and pop open a web browser. I'm going to go ahead and go to my document manager here. And go ahead and log in. Okay. Then let's go ahead and click over in the workflows section. Of course, you'll have to have the workflows privilege for your TechDoc account to be able to get into this section. So once you click the workflows tab there, you want to click deployments over here in the side menu. This is actually an admin account, so I can view all of the deployments in the system in mine. I actually logged in with a different account there, so I'm only looking at the ones for this account. That's why that's not listed. So let's go ahead and click all deployments there, or just click the deployment listed if you see it in your list. You'll see the video timer there. And you can also see the time that we deployed it. So let's go ahead and click on this little icon here to explore the package. You'll see that a little bit of metadata about the package. Actually, you can see the owner here is the SAML user. And this is the user that I've logged in with, so you can see they're different. Under process definitions, you'll see timer test. Remember, that was the name that we gave to the process when we first created it. Then under deployment resources, you'll see the other files that were included in this package. So if you look here, there's the diagram. It says new diagram.bpmn.xml. You can actually give the diagram file itself a name too. We didn't do that, so we just ended up with the default name there. If you click on the little diskette, you'll notice that the XML will come up, and it looks amazingly similar to the XML we saw in the editor. So you can take a look here at the process if you want. And then you also see the new diagram.ping. That's the thumbnail that was created for the process. So if you click on that, you can see that thumbnail there. So let's go ahead and click on the timer test process definition. Bring that up. You'll see a little bit of metadata about the process itself. The name, the deployment it's a part of, who's it owned by, when was it created, etc. Let's go ahead and just click Start Instance, and you'll see process instance started. And the little ID that was given, you always get a just a automatically assigned ID anytime a process instance is queued up. So let's go ahead and click Process Instances over here, and this will show us the instances that are running of this process definition. So here we can see the instances that are running. You'll see timer test. Let's go ahead and click on that instance. Again, you can see a little bit of info, metadata about that process instance. Then you'll see the process diagram here. It looks just like a thumbnail, but on closer look, you can actually interact with this thing. You can click on each of the various events and actually view a little bit of info about them. So if you click on that timer event there in the middle, you'll see the little bit of metadata there. There at the bottom, you'll see where it says duration. That was where we put in the period time of 1 minute. It's kind of nice because you can explore around a running process and see what's going on. If there's any variables in the process, different things you've said or form data, you can actually see those listed here. We don't have any of those, so the only variable you have there is current user. And you'll notice it's me. It has my name in it. That's because I'm the one that started it. That's the only variable that you will always have in a process instance. It's always owned by somebody. So if we give this a little bit of time, you can hit F5 there, and if it's been a minute, the process will have completed, and you'll see a little message saying the process instance specified has already completed. And if you go back to workflows and go into deployment and go find your package and that definition and click instances, you'll see there aren't any because they've all completed. So that's a basic rundown of the workflow editor, creating a real basic process, uploading it to the workflow repository inside of a document manager, and then executing it. We're going to create some more videos here in the near future. We'll actually go through a little bit more of the elements, just a little bit, and we'll actually dig in a little more to how the workflow processes can tie into TechDoc. So stay tuned. I hope you liked the video. Be sure to get on the DocuBrain website and leave us some feedback. It's real important for the beta version here, especially. If you come over here to the website, go under the community forums, you can find the DocuBrain Workflow Editor forum here. Feel free to hop on here, post your feedback, ask questions, and we'll answer them. Stay tuned.